Mabuhay, everyone. Live and go beyond your comfort zone and go beyond existing. Today, I am so grateful because I have my dear colleague, Rebecca Fine. And, she's one of our life coaches and she's relaunching her life coaching practice. And just to give you all a brief background of her, she has a diverse clientele, which includes business owners, network marketing professionals, social groups, moms, dads, teens, coaches, and more. She's driven to help people tap into the endless supply of moment to moment inspiration and trusting calm that work together to create a successful, purpose driven life. Something people from all walks of life are seeking now more than ever, using the latest in evidence based habit change methodologies, metaphysical science, cognitive behavioral therapy, and an ongoing passion for elevating others. She teaches clients step by step action of historical action to change habits, clear the mental weeds of historical hurts and restrictive thinking, turn baggage into leverage, use practical steps for good, and discover laser focus in the pursuit of their unique purpose and joy for life. With a focus on developing faith in one's true self, uncovering hidden self confidence, weathering change with ease, and drilling down meaningful, achievable goals, she offers one on one coaching and group coaching, both in person and remotely. Her training includes neuro linguistic programming, life coaching, CBT, and integrative nutrition health coaching. And she's one of the world's first habit members of the Habit Change Institute, certified senior habit change practitioners, a peer counselor, and more. The combination of her life experiences, enthusiasm for the expansion of human consciousness, and her formal training led her to incredible transformational results for her clients. So, let's give my guest a warm of applause and uh, mabuhay, Rebecca.
Hi, thanks. I didn't realize how long that introduction was.
Yeah, but it's amazing what work you have done for yourself and your career actually, because I think one of the best things that you have done for yourself is to go through that process yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it adds more value to your clients. And I particularly like your background that you've worked with a lot of network marketers in the past because
Mhm.
as early as 19 years old, I was already part of a network marketing business. And I was really thinking to myself that if I make good money out of it, I can really change my life.
Mhm.
So I went through a lot of trainings in network marketing. I was a working student, and I'm happy that in your background you worked with a lot of weeding out of negative programmings, because I realize now as a life coach myself that my failure at 19 years old was actually caused by limiting beliefs and negative programming.
Yeah.
So please educate our audience why it's so important to repattern one's consciousness and go through belief processing in such a way that it is liberating and is empowering at the same time, because a lot of people in my audience, they actually don't have any idea what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And, I think that, first of all, is it a failure or was it a lesson? Was it a
Yeah.
lesson, right? I think it's all part of the whole evolution and coming to that point where you realize that everything that's gone before has primarily been because of the fact that you've been built working from your conditioning. You've been working from what you have believed to be true. And oftentimes we will talk very negatively to ourselves. There's your inner gremlin is quite a common way to refer to that, and it's that ongoing dialogue that you hear all the time in your mind, and it's always in the third person. It's always, you should have done it like this, you could have done it better, why didn't you do it this way, why don't you work harder? And then what we start to realize is that this is somebody else's voice in my head that's telling me I should have done this and I should have done that. And What's so important, and one of the things that we really learn in metaphysical practice and in all types of personal growth, actually, is just to really listen more and more to that inner guidance, to take that time to really feel your way through to the next step. And I use this term a lot with my clients. How does that feel to you? Does this feel like you should be pushing for this goal? Does this feel like you should be aiming for this particular next step in your business? Because oftentimes when we are just pushing for goals, but we're not attached to it in terms of our
Mm-hmm.
energy, we're never going to see it manifest. And we
Mm-hmm.
often wonder why that is, right? We often wonder why that is. Well, I've been given the steps in the network marketing. I know if I just talk to 10 people and I call everybody that I know, and then I say this and I say that, and I use all these different ways of dealing with objections, then by next year I'll have a Lexus and $7 million, right? and
Amazing.
and right, and our energy, the universe within us, God within us, may be saying, I really applaud your enthusiasm, but that's not what I have in mind for you. That's not what's going to work for you. And so that's why I think sometimes it's just so challenging for people to move ahead, even though these steps may have been used by other people in the past. If that's
Mm-hmm.
not the right path for you, it's always going to be difficult. Now, when we start to really listen and we start to develop intuition for the energy that is right for us, the path that's right for us, well, that's when we get into this state of flow and things just move along, and they move along very easy for us. So I think I may be going around your question a little bit here, but in terms of just energetically getting right, know that those steps may be ahead of you that somebody else has already achieved. If they're not your steps, if you're not energetically in line with what's right for you, you're going to be climbing the wrong ladder. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people can spend a lot of time climbing the wrong ladder. So when we push in network marketing and we don't take the time to sit back and listen, we can really do ourselves a disservice. So meditating, taking time to breathe, taking time to put the steps aside and just listen to that intuition, listen to that guidance, can help us get our energy aligned with what's right for us, what's next for us, what's best for us. And it may be something completely different. It may be a different approach to the network marketing. We never know. So in a roundabout way, it's a combination of both those steps and your guidance that gets you to where you need to go. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it's very wonderful because you really touched on the details of what network marketers go through. And aside from that experience at the age of 19, I tried it again. I keep trying. You'll never know. So
Yeah.
I was there fully focused for about 3 years. I made some good income, but the kind of breakthrough that I was expecting out of it didn't really push through because I realized for myself, like what you mentioned, that uh, you're probably meant to try a different path. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I'm very grateful for all the trainings that I got there because it
Yeah.
grounded me. And at the same time, I love the group that I was part of. And at the same time, the health factor that was tied with it. But in terms of the approach, I realized for myself that my attraction for it was that I wanted to help people get healthier. I wanted to help people be free from pain
Mhm.
because after being part of that network marketing group for such a long period of time, I realized I wanted to become a personal trainer. So,
Right, right. So for you got these valuable lessons, which you might not have gotten anywhere else, but you learned a better path for you as a result of going through that.
yeah. And honestly, for me, I don't really mind doing that part, becoming part of the network marketing as a side business because it's
Mhm.
just, for me, it's just like putting money in the bank.
Yeah.
But this time, it's just like putting your efforts and allowing your harvest to come through over time. So I've built my clients over the years and I still get orders, but my full time practice is really metaphysics. So I like that you brought it up because it's really one of the things that goes through the psychology of a network marketer.
Hmm.
And like what you mentioned, there might be better ways of actually promoting the business without having to beat oneself up in terms of negative thinking. Because
Yeah,
that negative thinking, we think that it doesn't really matter, but in truth, subconsciously, it eats you up.
it
And
does. Yeah,
yes,
it does. And it can really, again, just as you said, it can really direct your business. You get to a certain point, and then some people will actually get to that certain point and they'll start to have that success. And then that success will fall off because there's a fear of success. There's a fear of, well, what's it going to look like when I get on the other side of this? How am I going? What's my life going to be like? So when we work with energy and we work with limiting beliefs, we really look at taking this old conditioning, this old way of thinking, and really focusing on what we want in the future, really putting an anchor out there to what could be from this moment forward, as if you're starting from a completely blank slate, which, if you're new to metaphysics, if you're new to tapping into your own inner guidance, it may feel like a completely new blank slate to begin with. But the more we tap in and recognize that all this abundance, wealth, achievement, success, it's already out there, and it's already
yeah.
been out there for a while. And the minute you start to lift the veil on who you believe you are, because that's most of the time what our negative thinking is, it's who I think I am as this meat sack, as I heard somebody say once. Who I am as this meat sack, which really is, this is just the vehicle that I get about in.
Mhm.
And when we start to realize that there's so much more to us, and this abundance, this success already exists if we just allow it, if we just close our eyes and stop trying to force it. The Taoist religion has a great word for this, which is Wu Wei, which is really just the action of inaction, of just letting things be. And
Mm.
if it's meant to be for you, then you'll have that positive energy towards it. If it's not meant for you, it's always going to feel very difficult, very challenging for you. But if you take that time to just clear your mind, clear your limiting beliefs, and as metaphysicians, we help work through that with you. We help get to the core of that, and really kind of push that aside. Not like a therapist would in terms of peeling back the layers. We kind of start from right where you are right now. This already exists in you right now. We just need to buff you up a bit and shine you up and let it come to the surface. But when we're able to let that energy shine through and let you really see who you truly are beneath this shell and what is available to you and always has been and always will be, wow, that's
Mhm.
when people really start to blow the lid off the things that they have a passion for, the things they have a pursuit for. And that may be that you become the next person that gets $7 million in a brand new Lexus. It may be that you decide, you know what, this is great, but personal training is much better for me. So either way, you're going to find out what your path is, your passion, your purpose, and you will find an enthusiasm and drive for it that you never felt before.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that because to me, I feel that even if I'm doing personal training and then helping people get over whatever painful thing in the body because the frame is not correct, we don't
Yeah.
exercise it in the way that in such a way that will help us build a healthier frame as we age.
Hmm.
But then I feel that the business can still grow in that direction and I don't
Hmm.
have to beat myself up with certain things. I'm still very open and receptive that it can grow in God's own wonderful way for me.
Hmm.
And I want to highlight on what you said about, you can still be that person getting that Lexus and that $7 million and feel really good about it.
Hmm.
Because if there is something that I resonate with you, Rebecca, is that you have this amazing sweet spot for understanding the importance of making profit and all the good that it can do.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I realized for a lot of people, one of the barriers to success is that they want to manifest a lot of money, but subconsciously they're sabotaging themselves because they have no idea, especially you talked about anchoring,
Hmm.
because you want to anchor your goals into something that it will create more good for yourself and for the rest of the community. Because I think if you don't have that kind of vision in the future, if you manifest that Lexus and that $7 million, subconsciously you're gonna sabotage your success. Because in one of the spiritual philosophies that I'm studying, they say that, you have this, you develop this bread of shame for
Hmm.
having too much but not doing the equivalent good with it.
Yeah.
Please talk more about it, because one of the barriers for a lot of people for success is that they accumulate so much but then unconsciously also tap into their guilt center,
Yes.
which is totally unnecessary. Please explain it to our audience.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, this is interesting actually because I see this a lot with some of the people that I work with that they will say, "Oh, so and so has all this and has all that," and feel very negative about people that have a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and but yet they want these things. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are creating this energy that having things is bad,
Mm-hmm.
having wealth is bad, having a new car, having a fancy lifestyle is bad, then when you achieve those things, it's already programmed in your mind that you are now this bad person. You are this person who you would sit there and berate beforehand.
Yeah.
So, really recognizing that if you want these things, you need to really appreciate that person for what they've got. Good for them. That's awesome. Wouldn't it be
Yeah.
lovely to have that? I'm really looking forward to having that myself. And I can't wait to be at that level too. And just really wallow in the good feelings. Imagine what it will be like when you have that great car, when you have that great house, when you have this extra income. So there's that's the one side of it, is really recognizing what you feel and the energy that you're putting out about success. If you want success but you're putting out the energy that successful people are bad, you won't ever get it, or you won't hold on to it for long. So that's
Yes.
the first part of it. um, the second part being, again, that fear of failure and of getting to that successful stage, and just thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if I really deserve this. I don't know how I got this. And one of the things that we learn in metaphysics and what we teach in metaphysics is, don't question it, just go
Mm-hmm.
with it. Just go with it. And one of the best ways to make sure that you are tuning yourself in to manifesting the things that you want, manifesting things you didn't even know you want, because that's the beautiful thing about becoming a multi-channel thinker, about just opening yourself up to any and all possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
is that as things come your way in small amounts, large amounts, from all different areas, you want to give yourself and give the universe this um, place where it realizes, where it recognizes that energy flows through you. Money comes to you, but money doesn't stop with you. This is another
Yes.
part of it too. It doesn't stop at you. It keeps going, and therefore, like a river, it will keep flowing and keep flowing. So it's a really big part of why we give so much to others, and why we want to create more money, we want to create more wealth, we want to create more abundance. It's not always financial, but we want to create more abundance in order that we can share abundance with others, because the more we share with others, the more we're going to get. The more we allow that energy to flow like a river, the more we're going to see that widen and open up so that it can reach more channels. So that's why I think it's so important to recognize where you are in both of those energy planes. Are you seeing successful people in a good way so that it will be good when you get there? And are you making sure money and finances and abundance is not stopping with you? It's continuing on its journey. Two very important factors energetically, I think, when you're working towards building a business, or a particular passion that you're aiming for.
Thank you so much. And I want to give you a round of applause for it,
Oh,
because
thanks.
especially when you mentioned that, you know, you find yourself manifesting things that you didn't even know you like in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a beautiful insight. And before I continue, Dr. Rogisman just said watching from the other side of the universe. And our colleague Dr. Yolanda Dukes is also watching. Hello there. One of the most beautiful things about that insight that you offered, where you talked about you don't even know that you actually liked it. So one of the things in feng shui principles that we keep talking about, especially the first step in feng shui, when we put things in alignment for our clients, we always talk about, you have to clear the clutter. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
things that you don't need anymore, no matter how pretty it is right now, if you haven't been using it, you might as well just pass it on to someone else
Yeah.
who will greatly benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you keep passing along items, you're not even sure what's gonna come back to you. So one of the best examples I want to share, the old television sets where it was so bulky.
Yeah.
The first feng shui consultant that I worked with 17 years ago, and one of the things that she mentioned, if you do not release your old bulky television set, you'll never know how the universe is going to bring to you this slim TV version. And so
I can
that
see you
particular,
hanging on to this TV. No.
yeah, and that's the beauty of it. You don't even know that you actually like the slim version, but you don't want to release and just give it as a gift to somebody you might actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the first time that person is going to have a television set. You don't know.
Right. Right. I think that's a funny story, and it's such a true example. There's a great book that's quite popular right now, The Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and she talks about,
Mhm.
she gives these great examples of how to tidy up and how to get organized in your house. And for some people it's quite austere, it's quite a sharp blow to organize in the way that she does. But when you read her book, you start to realize as you go through this that the whole time she's been weaving her philosophy all the way through the book, really subtle and just beautifully done. And you get to the end and you realize it's mind blowing. This whole idea of organizing, it's not even really about your physical space. It's
Mhm.
about your mental space. There's
Yes.
no room for anything else to come in. There's no room for any creativity, any inspiration, any ideas, any joy, even sometimes, if it's just full of yesterday's news, if it's full of old TVs showing old TV shows, reruns of your past again and again and again. And that, I think, is a beautiful thing to just connect with when you start to meditate and connect to more of your inner self, because you're not losing anything. You're making room for what you truly deserve and what will be the absolute best for you, tailor made for you. It will not be like that for anybody else. So there's absolutely no reason to hold on to that TV, right? That metaphorical TV, because what's coming is going to be so much better for you. You don't know when, and you're not sure what it looks like, but don't even question it. Like we were saying earlier, don't even question it. Just hang on and wait for it. And once that TV's gone, your metaphorical TV, something else is going to be there. It's just like being at the mall with a busy parking lot. As soon as one car backs out, another one comes in. So I love that whole principle of just letting go and letting be, and just knowing that the universe is going to provide you with something that is a custom fit for you and will be so much better.
That is so amazing. And at the same time, I want to point out, Rebecca, because while you were talking, this phrase came on to me that, there's always another level of feeling good
Mm-hmm.
that we haven't even discovered and tuned into, because we haven't really allowed that circuitry of energy to flow into our space.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remind people that our space is actually the extension of our mental space
Yeah,
that's just made manifest already.
yeah,
And it's so amazing that you talked about, uh, especially earlier before we started the show.
Hmm.
I remember you talking about your daughter and how she was excited and how she felt elevated by sharing something with someone, because it's
Yeah.
another way of circulating energy.
Hmm.
And please talk more about it, because I think it's so important for children, especially at that age, to already have that sense of sharing and
Yeah.
that elevated experience that comes from that practice.
Yeah, it was really sweet, and both my kids have always wanted to give to others. It's something that I encourage in the house, but they've just always been that way anyway. But we were
Mhm.
out today, and we saw a homeless person, and my daughter wanted to give him something, and she did, and she said she just felt so good after. She said, sometimes I think it feels better to give to other people than it does to get something for yourself. And I thought it was so cute, and it was just a huge proud mom moment as well. I just was really proud of her. But just to go back to the whole, we were in the car at the time, and just to go back to this whole idea of circulating energy, it made me think that when you're in the car, you have the two options of how the air comes in. You've got the little button where the air is just circulating within the car. It's the same old air you've been breathing since you started the car. And then you've got the other button where it comes in from the outside. It's a little arrow from the front of your car inside. So it's, bringing in fresh air. And that's very much like our energy too. If we're trying to create something new, but we've got that little button where we're just recycling the same old air over and over again, we're recycling the same old energy, the same old ways of doing things, the same old ways of thinking, and those same conditional habits of responding.
Mhm.
Well, we're never going to see anything new. We're never going to see any change. We're just going to keep repeating the same old things. And we hear this a lot when people say, "Oh, why do I always manifest the bad boyfriends?" Or "How come every new car I get gets a dent in it after like 10 minutes?" Well, that's it. You're recycling that same old energy. So, that's again why we talk about just really being open to new energies, open to new things, and open to just trying something different, and not having no expectations. So that was a little bit of an aside, but as far as that energy in helping others, just again going back to how this thread that we have woven through this conversation, in the energy that you get from giving to others is you helping yourself. If you recognize that God is within all of us, use the term energy, use the term the universe, use the term consciousness, whatever, use whatever is comfortable for you. If you recognize that it is within all of us, it binds us all together, then every time you do something that elevates the energy of another person, it comes right back to you, whether it's right there in that moment or it's at some other point in your life. It has to it's a law. So it's a beautiful thing to encourage children to recognize just what that feels like. And this is something that we talked about after. Well, how did it feel? How do you think it made him feel? Why do you think it made you feel good? Is it something you would like to do again? What are some other ways that you can help a person, elevate a person, that perhaps don't involve money or something along
Mhm.
those lines? And so it opens up a whole nother conversation of, well, maybe I could help them with a project, or tell them that they look cute today, or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. And it opened up a nice conversation.
Thank you so much. And it's so amazing that your children are having that kind of conversation. It's such a beautiful thing for children at that age to have that mindset, especially we both know that whatever happened right now
Mhm.
in our global village, it would not have happened if we were just circulating energy and resources continuously. But we
Mhm.
know somewhere, somehow, there was a block in the circulation of energy, because
Yeah.
if there was no block, things would have been flowing a lot smoother, and then
Mhm.
maybe it would not have made people feel that they have to preserve themselves,
Right.
because a
Yeah,
lot
maybe
of
that was a part of it. Yeah.
yeah, because I really believe that when one of my favorite authors, Dr. Catherine Ponder, was saying, when there's a problem in life, that means something is being withheld.
Mm-hmm.
Either you are withholding your forgiveness and release from the internal,
Mm-hmm.
and another thing that you can check is, are you also withholding a lot of your physical stuff that aren't really bringing out the highest good in you? So another thing that I wanted to discuss with you, Rebecca, is the idea of poverty consciousness, because I realized
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about circulation of energy, you may be circulating a lot of your physical resources, but if you're also not being of service, which is another way, like what your daughter said,
Yeah.
that maybe I can tell the person that they look cute today, it's a form
Mm-hmm.
of generosity. It's a
Yeah.
form of generosity of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, they think that you're doing it because you're trying to get something from that person. But I grew up in an environment, especially with my New Thought group here in the Philippines, where our minister always told us, why don't you just pay people compliments? You elevate their experience because they feel good about themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, they don't feel good about themselves because they haven't heard it enough.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong if you become a channel for compliments for people, because you could just imagine the barrage of negativity a lot of adults go through in life. You're not enough,
Yeah.
or so many things that limit a person's self-image and self-concept. That's why a lot of us, instead of standing out, we feel so insecure. We always second guess, am I supposed to uh, stand out in the crowd, or am I supposed to just hide in the
Yeah.
hide behind the scenes? Because paying people compliments is part of generosity of spirit, and it's so important. Please explain further why it's a healthy practice.
Yeah, it is. It is a healthy practice, and it is interesting, isn't it, when you are somebody who genuinely pays compliments to people, and you'll hear somebody say, "Oh, what do you want? What are you trying to get?" And it gives you an insight into where they are with their energy. That for them to pay a compliment, for them to give, is challenging. There's a reason why it's hard for them to see other people getting compliments. Perhaps it is because they haven't gotten a lot themselves. Perhaps it is because they are not, they feel that by giving somebody else a compliment, they're taking away from themselves,
Mm.
perhaps. So there's that element as well. But giving compliments to another person is actually giving, especially if you're giving a compliment to a person in terms of their character, in terms of who they are as a person. Um, not this that they really don't have any control over,
Mhm.
who they are as a person. I saw you help that lady over there. That was just so considerate and thoughtful of you. You must have really made her day. That's the kind of compliment that you can hang on to forever, because it has absolutely nothing to do with what you own or what you do for a living, or what you look like, or who your friends are, or what kind of music you listen to. It's about you, the deeper character of you. And that deeper character of you is the same in all of us. It's that loving, purposeful, meaningful, divine heart center. And it gets stimulated every time we pass a compliment onto somebody else. So you are in effect connecting with that deeper part of yourself every time you give a compliment, a genuine compliment from the heart. Um, because you're actually giving a compliment to that fragment that is right there in you too. And that's why it feels so good. You're elevating yourself on this very deep level. And when you start to realize it like that, when you start to see it like that, um, looking for those characteristics, looking for beauty in action rather than beauty physically, it's such a fun thing to do. Like, you can't wait to find somebody, to catch somebody doing something good or saying something
Yes.
nice, so that you can just tell them right then and there, this is thank you for doing that. This is so good, because it also, whatever it is that they are doing, when you catch somebody doing something good or doing something nice, they're doing it for you. They may not realize it, but by elevating the energy for all of us, they're helping you. So it is a lovely practice, and one that I like you. I've always been somebody who, I love to see the good in people. I've always been that way.
Yes.
I find something great in everybody that I speak to, even people that perhaps somebody else may not see that at all. I can always find something, because it's in there. It's always in there, even if it hasn't come to the surface yet. So keep
Yes.
telling people wonderful things about them, and complimenting people, and let whoever says, well, what do you want to get out of this, let them eventually come round and learn from you.
Thank you for sharing that. You're offering me a safe space right
Mm.
now, because I have spoken to a lot of people, and every time we talk about good deeds or kind deeds, one of the things that gets in the conversation is that people think that you want to look good in the eyes of others.
Mm.
And so they feel that somehow you're elevating yourself and you feel justified and validated for things like that.
Mhm.
And it also makes me think, if a person does it, number one, as an act of kindness and as a good deed, and at the same time, whatever the motivation is, it's actually not a bad thing if you come to think about it, because it rewires the brain to look for something good and beautiful.
Yeah.
So I noticed, Rebecca, I realized for the many years that I have lived my life, every situation is neutral.
Yeah.
What energy you give the situation is what you're going to get out of it. Because
Mhm.
no matter how problematic or challenging a situation is, if you look at the situation with faith that the Almighty can do its work in the situation, you can reverse a so called negative situation into a positive one.
Yeah.
But if you are so attached to the idea that the situation is bad, and because it's bad it's only going to get worse from here,
Mhm.
then you're actually adding energy to the possibility of negativity. What can you
Right.
say about it?
Oh my gosh. Yes, that is so true. It's like when you walk into a room and you can just feel it. They say that you can cut the air with a knife. It's so thick. And I think that there's something to be said about that. If there's some bad energy, if somebody's really giving off some bad energy, and you walk in and you feel it, and you're not in a position to recognize that that's got nothing to do with you. You have to set up this shield of steel, almost, in terms of your own energy, and know that this is coming from a deeper part of you, and know that this bright light, this shining light, this positive energy is always there in you if you just allow it, let it take the wheel. So when you do find yourself in a situation like that, and again, if you've got somebody who really feels that passing along compliments is self-serving, well, it kind of is in a way, but it's a beautiful thing. Like you said, there's still some beauty in it. But at the same time, recognizing that that person's energy, it may not be in the same place as yours. They may not be there yet. They may not be ready to just step aside and let go and let that positive energy really flow. Um, oh, that was a cute little rhyme. We should make a rap out of that.
Yeah.
But they might not be ready for that. And so, with that being said, knowing that you are ready, that you do get it, and you do feel it, can be so powerful in and of itself, in that you are transmitting so much positivity and so much understanding and so much more emotional intelligence, that you're actually able to pass it along to the person who's really feeling negative energy. You're able to just, I almost imagine it kind of shooting out of my arms and my feet, like gold light, just shooting out in my mind, like you are getting this psychic hug whether you want it or not, and just knowing that I've done my best to try and change the energy in some way or another. But like you said, just knowing that everything's neutral and that you do have some control over that. Now, there may be some situations that are so negative that all the good juju in the world and all the great energy that you're able to bring into the world is not going to help right then and there. But if you can protect yourself enough to be able to remain in that situation and then leave without taking on any of that energy, well, that's a win. You didn't add to it. You didn't make it any worse. You may not have made it
Yes.
better, but you didn't make it any worse. So that's a win. You were able to walk away unscathed and the situation remained the way that it was. So I always think in every situation, you're either elevating it or you're keeping yourself elevated for the next situation. So it's always good. It's always good.
And thank you for sharing that, because people talk about toxic positivity, and I don't really believe that there is such a thing as toxic positivity, because unless you came from an environment where you were really hurt badly,
Mhm.
that's the only time I think you're capable of saying toxic positivity, because I have met a lot of genuinely good people in my life, and I think it's just coming from a person whose pain body is not yet fully healed in the moment. That's
Mhm.
why
Mhm.
people have interesting names for it.
Yeah.
Because I never really thought about things like that, and it was actually very fresh to me, and it got me really wondering, especially Rebecca. I'm not sure if you've heard of any, if you've read any of Dr. Catherine Ponder's books. Have you read any of her
I
stuff?
haven't. No, no, not yet.
Oh,
Not on
right.
my big doctorate list. Not yet.
How? Yeah, and but I know that you're a reader of Reverend Ike, or a follower of Reverend Ike, and he's
Yes.
also very big on positive thinking, and he's such a humorous person,
Mhm.
and I love his podcasts and his lectures. And please share with us, because he always talks about manifesting, but at the same time, before you manifest, you have to come from an elevated emotion, and a lot of
Mhm.
people simply don't get it. They think that it's because of your pure hard work, that's why you're manifesting. And that's
Right.
very contrary to his lectures, where he keeps saying you have to be elevated so that that whatever flow of abundance can actually be drawn to you. Please
Yeah.
explain it so that our audience will understand the basis for it.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because when you are working really hard metaphysically, it kind of looks like this. And that's it. You're working really hard. So it's all internal. It's all yeah, you just really working on yourself and getting to those other levels. And it's interesting that you say that you don't believe in the term toxic positivity, because I feel the same way too. I think that walks a very fine line, because like you said, most people are very good people. They're doing the absolute best that they can with what they've got right now until they know better, and then they do better. So when we start saying, oh, this positivity is toxic, well, that comes from me. That feels like that comes with an awful lot of shame and guilt that perhaps wasn't there before. Perhaps that parent, that person, that influencer was really genuinely trying to be positive and helpful. And so I think weaving in an element of shame by saying that type of positivity is toxic, I don't find that to be particularly helpful. What I find to be more helpful is, instead of this, do this. Try this. This is
Yeah.
better than that. And you've done the best you can up until this point. To use your term, every situation is neutral. Well, you are neutral. You are neutral. Everything that you've done up until this point is why where you are right now. But everything you do from now will create your future. You are actually in the future based upon the actions that you took a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Right, you are actually living in that future that you designed for yourself. And so when we start to see that and we start to realize, goodness gracious, if I've been like a Debbie Downer in the dumps, just reliving these old TV shows again from my nasty old TV on the screen of my mind, then I'm going to keep seeing the same things. I'm going to recreate that same future. So it's that exact same idea of you've got to be in that good state. You've got to be in that positive state. You've got to really believe and feel it. Again, to go right back to what we talked about right at the beginning. For me, and here I'm like rubbing my chest as I'm saying, for me, feelings, and I use this a lot in my coaching practice. How does it feel? It will feel good and right and positive and as it should be, if it is good and right and positive and as it should be, right there for you at that time, which may be different for somebody else. And you're never going to know that. You're never going to really feel that until you stop and do the hard work. Like I said, just nice and quiet and just let it do its thing.
Yeah.
And so that you can begin to feel that and to be guided by those emotions.
Yeah.
So getting into that really good spot, getting into that place, feeling good, picking better feeling thoughts, as Abraham Hicks
Yes.
calls it. I love that. I love that. I use it all the time. Picking better feeling thoughts helps you then cherry pick more of your future. Do you want to see better things in your future? Well, start thinking good thoughts now. Are you still seeing negative things, negative people, just repeats of the past? Well, that's because last week, yesterday, this morning, maybe even 5 minutes ago, you were still in that same negative mindset, thinking those negative things, thinking this always happens to me, I never get this, blah, blah, blah. And again, if you remember that you are neutral, not just every situation, but you can start again right now, right this minute, just with your
Mhm.
thoughts. You don't have to do anything other than think and let things be and just listen. You can create a whole new future for yourself.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And Dr. Rogesman said toxic positivity is synonymous to it's a good vibes only approach to life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay in that positive state all the time?
Yeah, I think that toxic positivity. I think it would be unrealistic to say you can stay in a positive state all the time. I think that the goal is to stay in a positive state all the time, but the way that you elevate your positivity is to get back to that state as quickly as you can. I mean, if you just got into a car accident, you're not going to walk out of there like, namaste, that was awesome. Right. As highly elevated as you may be with your energy, you're not going to be very happy about that, right? Let's hope that your body is intact, but even still, it's that dent in your car is not going to make you happy. So I don't think it's about trying to maintain this positive state all the time or expecting to maintain. Expecting is a better word. I don't think it's about expecting to maintain this positive state all the time. I think it's about getting back to it and knowing how to get back to it, knowing how important it is to get back to it as quickly as possible. Just like habit change, when we teach habit change, if you want to brush your teeth, if you want to floss your teeth every day, and you floss one tooth, and you only floss them 5 days a week, one tooth 5 days a week, we're going to count that as a win because you are on the right track. You're heading
Mhm.
there. You're heading in the right direction. And if you don't floss your tooth tonight, tomorrow you can go right back to it. So then you're going to build on that. You're going to build from flossing one tooth to two teeth to three to the whole mouth. And this is a principle that came from Stanford professor B.J. Fogg in his book, Tiny Habits, where he talks about building habits, tiny little micro habits. And the same thing as you're building your energy, your positivity, and being able to get back to that positive level. It's the same thing. It's tiny little steps. Maybe if you're new to meditation, you just start by meditating for a minute. Maybe that's all you've got. You can just sit for a minute, and after a minute you're like, no, that's it, I can't do anything else. Maybe you just sit for a minute and that's what you get. And then next week you go to 2 and then 3 and then 4. Maybe you try to catch yourself reacting to a certain thing and shift your mindset just that one time, and then maybe the next time, and maybe the next time you try something little. It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint, sorry, it's a marathon. But the more you get into these habits and the more you celebrate each tiny little win, however small it is, with your energy, with every little achievement, the more you actually stimulate your brain and make your brain realize this is good. Let's get some more
Yes.
of this. Let's have some more of this. And it's actually proven that the more we think negatively and the more we react anxiously, stressfully, angrily, the more we expand our amygdala, and it grows like a muscle. So now it thinks it's doing us a favor, and it becomes even more sensitive to negativity and to stress and to anxiety. The more we reduce it, the more we spend time trying to relax, not be as responsive, we'll actually physically shrink the amygdala. So science is catching up to what metaphysicians have known for centuries and
Mhm.
perhaps not been able to explain with neuroscience. So again, I think the answer to that question is just really practicing positivity as much as you can, getting yourself into those good feelings, picking better feeling thoughts, and knowing that if a negative emotion comes in, that you're the observer. You don't have to let it drive the bus. You can let it get on the bus for a short while, but then it will get off at some point and you're back to driving the bus. So you're back to doing what you know to be beneficial for you, for building your energy, building your positivity, and getting back to that space quick.
For sharing that. And I also want to share this to the audience because last week, for a couple of weeks, every Friday, I would post something funny in the International Metaphysical Ministries Facebook group. And then until last Friday, I was so happy. I was listening to one of my favorite songs, and then something really divine happened. Something really wonderful happened. When we say something negative happened, instead of saying something negative happened, we say something wonderful happened in
Something
my
wonderful.
circle,
Yeah.
and something divine happened in my old New Thought group. So it was really emotionally devastating because it was coupled with violence for the LGBTQ
Mm-hmm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the trainings that I got with Heart Math is, you also have to tend to your emotions because your emotions play a big part in whatever it is that you'd like to manifest. So
Yeah.
literally, I also mentioned to people that, I have to mention this, and I also have to uh, just allow ourselves some grieving period, even if just for one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
that that full one day to just feel the emotions. But then after feeling that, I again felt that, okay, this is what I'm gonna do now because I allowed myself that grieving period. Now my friends and I in the LGBTQIA circle decided we're going to have a new show. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really mean that just because you're tending to that feeling of grief for a momentary period, or maybe let's say 24 hours,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that because even Abraham Hicks, with all her talks about having better feeling thoughts, she also talks about in her talks that, when you're already there in that space, you just have to allow it.
Allow
Because
it. Mm-hmm.
once you have already released all that, whether you like it or not, you know how it feels like when you've cried enough about a matter and then all of a sudden you're in this momentum where you find yourself chuckling
Yeah.
and then having that
Yeah.
momentum of laughter.
Right.
So I think it's the non-judgment of what's happening to you that we're supposed to be mindful of. And I also want to add, Rebecca, what do you feel about this? Because every time there's a feeling of letdown for me,
Mm-hmm.
I always ask myself, what am I grateful for in the moment?
Yeah.
Because somehow it elevates your feeling about the moment. It may not make you very positive right away or elated,
Right.
but still it builds you up little by little. I think
Yeah.
yes, go ahead.
Yeah. It does. Sorry to interrupt. I agree with that. I feel that it does build you up little by little. And like you said, it might not work right away, but you're building that foundation. And a lot of the work, a lot of the spiritual work goes on behind closed doors in your subconscious. So you're making the efforts here in the conscious, you're consciously making the effort, but the actual work, the programming is going on way down there deep in the subconscious. So again, just getting back to these levels, getting back to the practices that you have that keep you happy, even if you're not, or keep you fulfilled and connected to the spiritual side of you, even if you're not connecting with them at the time, that routine, that momentum is how we build a habit. So if we want to build the habit of connecting to our subconscious, we would build that same habit just like we would brushing our teeth. Just like we would, I come home and the first thing I do is put on the TV, or I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is have a cup of coffee. We're going to build it in that same way, in having routines and habits and steps that we take to connect with that deeper side of ourselves, to connect with that positive side of ourselves. So, like you said, even if you're feeling down, and what happened was terrible, and I'd love to hear your take on it, how you allowed that emotion to come in and process it and recognize that it happened, it is what it is, and what can come from this, what good can come from this. And that's powerful, and it's a skill. But moving ahead is a habit for you. Clearly, moving ahead is a habit for you. What's next? What can I get out of
Mm-hmm.
this? How can I make this grow? Um, and it's that exact same thing with habits, with habits of the mind, with habits of the soul, with habits of your daily routine. Even if you're not connecting at the time, going through those motions, sitting down, meditating, if that's something that you do or that's something that you want to begin doing, at the same time that you always do it, keeps up that schedule, it keeps up the momentum. And in your subconscious, way down there in the basal ganglia of the part of your mind that operates like
Mm-hmm.
the sleep function of your computer, it's still doing the work. It knows, oh, when we sit down like this usually feels pretty good. I don't feel very good right now, but I know usually when I sit down, it feels pretty good. So that work's still going on behind closed doors. So just would really recommend that. Continue with your habits, continue with your routines, and that will help. Again, going back to answer the question, it will help you get back into that positive space as quickly as possible. And earlier, I used the metaphor of feelings getting on the bus and getting off the bus, but you're driving the
Mm-hmm.
bus. I always loved that. That was from a book. I can't remember the name of the author now, but the book was called The Energy Bus. And it was just about this one particular person who drives the bus, and all these different personalities going through different things in their life get on, and they contribute in some way. And some of them get off because they're not really contributing at all. And that's kind of like emotions, and in that respect, in that you're driving the bus, you're going down the path of this journey that you're on, but there will be people, places, things, incidents, emotions that get on the bus, and it's up to you to make sure that they don't distract you from where you need to go, and they don't put anybody at risk, let's say, as you're driving down the road in your energy bus, and know that they will get off. So become more of an observer, if you will, kind of looking in the rear view mirror of your bus as you're heading in the direction you want to go, and just periodically checking in on these emotions and people, because we don't want to become completely stoic. Emotions are important for humans. They're adaptive, right? They allow us to experience things, make change as we need to, but we also don't want them to drive. We don't want them to take charge. We want to be able to allow those feelings to come in, learn the lesson, process, take from it what we will, and then allow them to leave.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I love your energy and the way you explain things. It's something that a lot of people can relate to, especially Dr. Rowe just made a comment. Yes, allowing is important because what you resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you mentioned about the habits of the mind, because in relation to what just happened with the LGBTQIA concern, because it's a collective concern, the habits of the mind that you talked about, a lot of the LGBTQ people feel that the trauma and stress that happened to them is not, let's say, let's forgo the violence if they didn't go through any physical violence, but that inner dialogue, the habits of the mind that kept them limited, it
Mm-hmm.
is an ongoing internal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And like what you said, it's the habits of the mind. And I trust that if people in the LGBTQIA community are watching this, I'm not sure what Rebecca has yet for her workshops or consultations, but when a coach or a healer talks about things like that, I love that they bring it up for discussion because a lot of us, we go through our days on autopilot,
Mm-hmm.
and it does take a lot of willpower to repattern oneself and repattern one's narrative.
Yes.
And that's why I know that Rebecca's done a lot of amazing work on herself, because it's only when you're totally glued into what you're doing that you're able to bring those details up. And it's so important because one of the most amazing things that she brought up this morning is that you have to make it a habit to celebrate, to give yourself a pat on the back, even for small accomplishments. Because one of the ways to demonstrate something big is to allow your psychology that you are worthy, ready, and you deserve it. And it starts with building the habit of allowing yourself to celebrate the small wins. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, a lot of the one of the things that this amazing spiritual teacher brought up was, you can't just manifest. For example, you manifest $1,000,
Mm-hmm.
and she was saying, if you totally don't have the neural patterns for manifesting $1 million, the
Mm-hmm.
way to go through it without sabotaging yourself is you celebrate your small wins along the way to the $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go from $100 to the $1 million and you didn't build the neural patterns for it, what happens is when you go through that $1 million, you get into that bread of shame zone,
Yeah.
and then you lose all that money. You don't build the necessary capacity to hold it
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't celebrate your small wins. And Rebecca, I'm sure you have a lot of things to share about achieving something small to achieving something big. Because to the universe, it doesn't really matter if the universe gives you something big right now. But the one who's actually blocking the capacity to manifest that big goal is you. So
Right.
please tell us more about it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Your mind doesn't know the difference, right? It doesn't know the difference between something big or something small. Only what you have told it. Only what you have told it is big or small in terms of in term money, especially, right? So when you think about this, and this is part of the work that Dr. Gina Cleo does at the Habit Institute in Australia, is really breaking down habits. It's the same way to create a habit as it is to deconstruct one, in that there's always a cue, there's always a trigger, there's always a reward. So if you're trying to create this just appreciation for this large thing that you want to manifest, it's like getting a Lamborghini but not being able to drive. You've got to learn how to drive, or that Lamborghini is just going to sit there gathering pollen and bird poop on your driveway and it's going to be useless. And it's the exact same thing in that you need to create rewards for everything. And, when we were little, a lot of us, when we went to the dentist, when we were little, we would get a sticker. And it was the greatest thing ever. We couldn't wait to show everybody, look at my sticker, I went to the dentist. And it was like the greatest thing you had gotten all day. And as we get older, we don't reward ourselves. We don't reward ourselves for those things. Oh, I brushed my teeth today. Kudos. No one's going to pat me on the back for that. If you want to build a habit, any habit, however small it is, again, whether it's something physical like an exercise routine, or perhaps you're drinking too much coffee and you want to quit, which was one of mine, or at least cut back, or even if it's the practice of just responding in a different way, thinking about things in new and different ways, you have to create that habit loop in the exact same way that the habit was first built. So you need whatever the cue is. Let's say I have, in fact, I think I might have a penny just lying around. No, I do not. But if I had a penny, the cue would be when I see money, when I see anything coming towards me or coming my way, however small it is, that's my cue, that's my trigger. The routine is I feel deep gratitude for this This is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I am so grateful for this, whatever it might be. And in by doing so, you're now creating reward in your brain. You're rewarding yourself. You're giving yourself a pat on the back. You're telling your brain, oh, this is good, whatever it is. I just happen to have this cup. I am so grateful that there's this much water left because I'm still
Mm-hmm.
kind of thirsty. So just any kind of gratitude that you can. And again, by celebrating those small wins, however small it is, you're going to train your brain that this is good. This is great. We like this. We like these feelings. Let's do more of it. And at the same time, you're opening your brain metaphysically to allow any more new things to come through, to unblock that channel that it's only going to be right when it's this. Well, it has to be right all the time. You have to be happy with what you've got right now. And I know people say that all the time. Well, just be happy with what you've got. Sometimes it's easier said than done. But that is a practice. That's a practice. Just like you got into the practice of not being happy with what you
Ah,
had, right? Just like you got into that practice, that it's not enough. So if you can turn that around and start to be happy about anything and everything, and actually, I'm a really big fan of the Panda Planner. I don't know if you guys use
mm-hmm.
planners, but the Panda Planner is a really big favorite of mine because in the Panda Planner, there is you start your whole day off with, you can see there,
That is awesome.
three things that you're grateful for every single morning. Three things you're excited about, an affirmation, your priorities, your exercise, your schedule, and things like that. So it's kind of nice because you can use these tools to get into the practice of feeling gratitude as well. And when you write out your gratitude list, don't just be grateful for what it is that you have. Be grateful for what it is that you have, but be grateful for what's coming down the pipe because you know it's coming to you. That's a nice little
Ah,
key that I learned through the University of Metaphysics, is just really being super grateful that this is on its way to you, and just knowing that it's done. It's done. It's already been put out there. It's on its way to you. You don't know when, but that you don't even care because you know it's coming and it's going to be great. And so building that sense of gratitude, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of achievement, nice and early on, just opens you up to so many other channels. And again, neurologically, it's training your brain for the good things. Like you had said, it's very hard to I can't remember exactly how you put it, but when we look at the synapses in the brain, if we do something very frequently, whatever it is, whether that's we put our pant legs on, you put your right leg in before you left, and then the next day you
mm-hmm.
try and put your left leg in before your right, it's going to feel really strange. Now, in your brain, if you think about the synapses are like the branches of a tree, the more we do something, the thicker they are. And the less we do something, the thinner and more wispy they are. Which is why if you put your right leg in all the time, there's a nice thick habit memory, if you will, right there. And if you try to use your left leg because you don't use it very often, that's really challenging. It's not very well built, let's say. So if we want to change a habit, we have to try and prime ourselves to new things, to new ways of thinking, to doing things we don't normally do, to doing something different. So if
Yes.
you're thinking it'll only feel good when it's the Lamborghini or the $10,000 or that particular set of Nike Jordans or whatever it is, and doesn't feel good before then. Well, when you get that, that's not going to feel all that great either, because you've not trained your brain, you've not opened yourself up, you've not pruned away, synaptically pruned away those old ways of doing things. So I highly
Thank
encourage
you
you
so
to,
much.
yeah, I just encourage
It's
you
such
to
a beautiful,
try new
um,
things, do new things, and open yourself up to new perspective of gratitude.
yeah, and I want to highlight on how well you explain visually what happens to the brain neurologically, and at the same time, how you're able to practically explain that particular synapses in the brain and that neurological wiring and be able to relate it to the Nike Jordans and the Lamborghini, because this kind of language really helps people who are trying to demonstrate something material in their lives without guilt and shame.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, Rebecca, before we talked, I talked to a lot of people, and I noticed that even in the spiritual path, a lot of people feel negatively towards practical mysticism, talking about money and wealth and brands.
Mm-hmm.
It rubs them off the wrong way. But
Mm-hmm.
I come from my training with Dr. Masters, where he talks about, you know, you have to, a truly spiritual person is someone who is inwardly aware and outwardly successful.
Mm-hmm.
And also with Dr. Catherine Ponder, where she says that you have to desire prosperity, because what actually causes a lot of problems in the world is the poverty consciousness, your guilt
Mm-hmm.
and shame towards having.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you have to be ostentatious about your understanding of wealth, but what I'm saying is that, or I also want to highlight that I'm not encouraging conspicuous consumption. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is a balanced lifestyle, that you have to be able to demonstrate all this material wealth, but without judging yourself or judging others,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to find that sweet spot. And I think you're putting it out so well that I am very grateful for it, that you're able to talk about it this way comfortably, and I trust that more people will listen to you, because a lot of people need this, you know. A lot of people have problems health wise and financially, but we know it's not more hard work that's going to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the right thinking, it's the habits of thinking, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It's repairing the consciousness
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that will actually repair the outer situation. Please talk more about it.
I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. And
You're
part of
welcome.
that is because of the way that I've learned how these things work in my own life. Like you said, you can really tell when somebody's done the work, when they're that connected to it. Um, and you're right, that whole poverty consciousness can be it's prolific. Actually, it can be generational, and it can be something that is very challenging to get out of unless you start a practice of gratitude and introspection and mindfulness and recognizing, again, because I love that word you use, every situation being neutral. I think that's just a beautiful way to put it. Recognizing that neutrality in you. Yes, your family may not have had a ton of money. Yes, you may live in a live a lifestyle that is not the same as the people that you follow on Instagram or whatever it might be. But the fact of the matter is, we never know what's going on behind somebody else's mind, even those people that do seem to have ostensible success. Are they really successful? So you have to think about too, what does success really mean to you? When we're really focused on the outside world, we are focused on generally, oh, I want the bigger house and the 2.5 kids and the and the really nice car in the driveway or whatever it was. I want somebody else to drive the really nice car for me, with me in it, whatever it might be. And so I think that when we start to really go inwards, and I really noticed this with myself, because metaphysical practice was not something that was a part of my upbringing at all. I had a good general religious education because I grew up in British public school in the 80s, where we talked a
Mhm.
lot about all different types of religions, not metaphysics, very different. So I had this nice,
Mhm.
wide, broad understanding and an interest in it. So I always questioned things. But up until I discovered the University of Metaphysics, I actually didn't really know what metaphysics was. I had kind of an idea, and it struck a chord with me because I thought, wow, this is how I've always thought it should be, but I've never found anything that fit that bill for me. So I had done my own practice and grown a lot through personal development, through just always being hungry for more information of how I could feel better about this situation, that situation, how I could help more people. But it was really the culmination of that personal development and then a metaphysical education that just blew the lid off for me. And what it did, it was mind blowing. I'm like a totally different person for the better, really. And I hear it from people all the time. Oh my gosh, you've changed so much. My kids will say that, Mom, you're so much calmer, um, which is nice for everybody. But I think that what it really made me realize is the more inward we go, the more we step aside from what ostensibly seems to be success, and the more we really listen and feel success. Again, it's, you might get a feeling of success when you park that new Mercedes in the driveway for a few months, but after a while, you're going to get used to it and you're going to want something else because it's not fulfilling you on that deeper soul level. It never could. It's
Mhm.
nice. It's going to feel nice when you're sitting there, the heated seats in the winter.
Yes,
But it's
yes.
never really hitting you in that deeper soul. So I think that what's really important to recognize is the more you go inward and the more you really realize what success means to you, what it feels like to be full emotionally, spiritually, you start to look at some of these things and think, well, that would be nice, but it's not the be all and end all for me. I recognize that that's not going to make me happy. It might make me smile and give me a much more comfortable drive when I go to the grocery store or the dentist, but it's not going to, it's not going to
Yes.
fulfill my life in any way, shape, or form. And it starts to become almost comical when you think about those things and you think about success because they don't have quite the same shine or meaning to you anymore. And success is more about, well, how can I reach more people? How can
Mhm.
I make more money so that I can help more people? I can open more ministries. I can, get help with my Instagram account or my Facebook account so that someone else can really polish it while I am able to speak to more people. They can help me
Yeah.
reach more people. They can help me share this message and do it in a much more professional way on so many more platforms. And guess what? By doing that, by helping others, again, it comes all full circle back to the same thing, doesn't it? By helping others, by attaching this to something bigger than yourself, better than yourself, all those wonderful material things are going to come to you. They're going to come to you because you will have the resources with which to buy them.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to add to what you just said about the Mercedes, for example, because I think it's such a nice example, especially for network marketers who are going to watch this later. Especially for me, having quality items is very important because it
Mm-hmm.
saves you a lot of money from the wear and tear in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
uh, for example, owning one car, really nice luxury car, because of how many years you can keep it, because of how dependable it is. It's such a nice investment for me.
Mm-hmm.
But and it only becomes overwhelming, I think, for other people when it no longer brings you joy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to what your daughter said. Sometimes giving something to someone makes you more joyful,
Mm-hmm.
because I realized that when we talk about prosperity consciousness, it doesn't only mean having a lot of material abundance. It also has a lot to do with realizing that you have all these creative talents and abilities, and I have all these material resources.
Mm-hmm.
And how am I maximizing that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I realized for my well to do clients, Rebecca, they have all this money, all this influence, but they get into that boredom,
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
space of boredom, because they don't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's one of the first steps towards poverty consciousness, because when you're not being generous in spirit because it's so innate to us to be able to maximize our resources on the
Mhm.
soul level.
Mhm.
Maybe on the conscious level you don't know it because you think that you're supposed to have security,
Yeah.
and apparently for a lot of people they define security in terms of having all these things.
Right. Right.
But on the soul level you feel that boredom
Mhm.
because you know you were meant for so much more, and not just in material accomplishment but being able to max out your full potential.
Yeah.
What can you say about it? Because I really believe that we're all meant to shine, like what Marian Williamson said. You know, we are born to make manifest the glory of God that is in all of us, and
Yeah.
it's not just in some of us.
Mhm. Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And in saying that the Mercedes isn't going to make you happy for long, like you said, in terms of it, thus you're going to get bored. There's nothing wrong with wanting things. There's nothing wrong with having a great car, great clothing, or beautiful skincare, or whatever it might be that floats your boat. Everybody's different. But what we tend to do is we tend to put the cart before the horse. We tend to say, I'm going to go for this, and this is going to make me feel better. And then when I have this, I'm going to show up in the world as with more authority and more credibility, and therefore people will appreciate me more, and I will be somehow more valid and valuable in the world because of these things and how they elevate me. And what we don't realize is that it's the other way around. The more value we bring to others, the more we elevate ourselves. The more we elevate ourselves, the more we're able to then obtain these things that make our life feel better, perhaps on a more physical level. And the better we're able to go through life in order to help more people, in order to serve others. So instead of thinking I'm gonna aim for this, I'm gonna aim for this vehicle, or this is what I really want. And we're picking vehicle because we're talking about network marketing, and that always tends to be, the pink Cadillac or whatever it might
Yeah.
be, the Lexus, the white Lexus. Um, sure, know that that's the vehicle you would like. Be specific about what you want if that's really important, and that's what keeps manifesting in your mind. That's what I want. Um, but at the same time, know that it's through your efforts in the elevation of others. We all go up together. It's the value that you bring to others, it's the value that you bring to the table. That value is what you're going to get paid on. So the more value you can bring to others, the more you're going to see money come to you, things, connections, doors opening, resources opening. You only get paid in relation to the value that you bring to the universe.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Rebecca. It's such a beautiful thing that you discussed, especially when we talk about helping others. And a lot of people, especially my friends, uh, they're always wondering why is Reg always talking about helping others? Is it because you just want to look good? Because for some people, they doubt your sincerity because you talk about it. But I want to bring this up for discussion because part of a metaphysician's work is to educate people about the value of helping others so that they reverse whatever limited uh, energy capacity they have, because we know that when we bring more value to the marketplace we're also expanding our wealth container, as one of my mentors would say it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, if this is your wealth container, for example, because this is the value that you bring to the marketplace, if you want to be able to attract more, you're going to have to expand your wealth container.
Mm-hmm.
And by helping others, what you're doing is to expand this cup, this wealth container, so that you can actually receive more. And
Right.
the magic behind it, Rebecca, like you mentioned, the beauty of it is that you are not attached to how it's going to come to pass,
Mm-hmm.
but you have that certainty inside of you that it's going to come to pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love this conversation actually because every time I talk to someone, sometimes people make me feel that you're talking about it because you're arrogant or bragging. And I think we have to get that out of the way because,
Mhm.
you know, just like you, I've also done my homework. And one time, Louis Hay and Abraham Esther Hicks, they were talking, and Esther Hicks was relatively new, and Louis Hay was the teacher.
Mhm.
So one time, they were having this conversation in the parking lot, and Louise Hay was asked by Esther Hicks, "Are you not worried that people are going to do something negative to the car because it's so luxurious and it's so
Oh, yeah.
beautiful? Are
I
you
think
not
I
worried?
heard that one. Yeah.
And are you not worried that they're gonna be envious of you?" And I'm not sure of if you heard about it. Can you please continue the story for us? Because it's amazing that you actually heard it because there are so many podcasts of them, and it's very rare that someone will actually listen to the same thing I listen to.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it ended, but I do remember that she was talking about this car and not being remotely worried if somebody does something to it. She just didn't expect anybody to do anything, and nobody's going to do anything to it. Nobody is going to touch it. Nobody ever touches it.
Yeah, and thank you, Rebecca, for giving me that space. I feel so blessed this morning, uh, because it's such a gift to be able to talk to someone without reservations.
Mm.
I have a self-made billionaire client, and she used to live in the slum area here in Manila, Philippines, and we had a session together. And she was so excited that she can help me out and elevate my consciousness because she's also a meditator. And one of the things that she said to me, "Are you okay that I'm sharing this? Because you might find me arrogant or bragging that I'm sharing this with you." And from that moment on, I realized that she also had that kind of conversation where someone must have made her feel that way,
Yeah.
that she would pause in the middle of the conversation.
Hmm.
So, I felt so good. I was telling her, "No, please tell me more, please tell me more,"
Yeah.
because I told her, I keep paying for courses and I keep buying books how to be successful and to improve my life. And here you are already, the living, breathing example of what can happen to me. Please go ahead. And then we were having so much fun talking about it because she loves to meditate. She loves to create the vision boards. And, Rebecca, I don't know if you have noticed this with your clients. The more industry leaders I have, the wealthier clients I have, not just in material things, but in terms of prosperity consciousness.
Hmm.
They're actually the clients who don't like to analyze. They trust you enough because they know nobody's just going to enroll in courses and
Hmm.
spend time on research for nothing. So they're also the clients of mine who execute a lot faster and a lot easier.
Yes.
Have you noticed that with your clients? Because that's what I experience over and over again.
Yes, they don't sit on the fence so much. They know what they want, they hear what they want, they hear the language, and then they just go for it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you know
and
what? I heard
go
somebody
ahead.
said to me once, if you are born into success, if you're born into money and status, you don't think twice about it because that's just how it is. That's the way that you were raised. And so often when we're not raised that way, and for most of us, there's always somebody with more money and more things, right? For the majority
Yeah.
of the planet. Um, so with that being said, when we think about it from that perspective, the way I think about my business, money, things, who I am, where I am, it can change from moment to moment. I can control that. I can close my eyes and imagine myself as the owner of this fantastic business, as this excellent coach, as this wonderful tennis player, or whatever it is that you want to be in your life, and just sit there and just really marinate in it and live that life, walk in those shoes, spend the rest of your day operating as if that's who you are and that's the life that you have and you already have it. It's funny. I I'm kind of in the market for a new car right now, going back to the whole idea of a new car. And I got into my car, and I love my car, but I'm about due. And I was imagining that I had my hands on the steering wheel of the car that I really have my eye on. And this is how it feels, and just how amazing it takes the corners. And I was driving my car, imagining it was this other car. And I thought, wow, I really love my car. I don't think I'm ready to get rid of my car yet, because I was seeing it in a completely new light. I felt like it was driving better, and the seats were more comfortable. And, you can do that with anything. Just see yourself in that place. Imagine yourself in that place. Walk in those shoes, and things will start to change. They have to. It has to come into alignment, because otherwise you're going to constantly be in contrast. Things aren't going to feel right. And that is often, again, to kind of tie together this golden thread that we've had through the conversation. If you want something that's here, and your mindset and energy is here, never the twain shall meet. You've got to get your mind and your habits and your way of thinking and feeling about yourself, what you deserve, what you should have. You've got to get it in the same plane so that they can get together. This is like the idea of flow, for example, and chi, and just getting in the zone. Athletes will say, when I get in the zone, that's all I can do, and all I can think about is I just feel like I'm floating as I'm doing whatever it is. And you can get in the zone with anything. You can get in the zone while you are writing. You're getting the zone while you're washing your car. You can get into the zone while you're grocery shopping, or while you're playing a sport, while you're hiking, petting your cat, whatever it might be. But getting into that moment where the veil between who you physically are, what you physically have manifest in your life up until this date, and who you are spiritually, who you are really, truly, authentically, is this zone, this energy, this zen, this infiniteness.
Yes.
Which means you're limitless. You can do anything. You just have to get in there, and get in there as often as you can. And again, to use Abraham Hicks again, get into the vortex, get into that space, that flow, that chi, that whatever you want to call it, that inner self, because that is your Christ consciousness. That's your universal consciousness. That is your connection to everything that has gone before, everything that will come in the future, and the fact that it's already there. You just got to line it up.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing that, because it's such a beautiful thing that you talked about the Christ consciousness. Because I want to go back to what you mentioned earlier about it takes the same process where when you're trying to construct a new belief system, and you're also deconstructing that belief that no longer serves you, or probably you have outgrown already, and it comes with some form of effort or devotion. And for me, what I had to do was to actually take action. And taking action, maybe not in the most ideal way of taking action, as a lot of people would think of as the most ideal thing. But to me, if you really take the time to come up with something really valuable, because you talked about value earlier, and one of the things that I want to bring up right now is, when I was trying to construct my book, Monetize Metaphysics, I didn't really know that it's something that I wanted to do. But I know that because it's research, I wanted it to be authentically me. Sorry, it's so hot right now in the
Okay.
Philippines. And one of the things that I want to bring up for discussion is, it takes exerting yourself, because a lot of people watch The Secret, and then everybody's thinking all they have to do is to think about it and then manifest. And when it doesn't happen, they get
Right.
disappointed. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, you're so right. It is this whole idea of I'm going to follow the process, like network marketing. Again, this is how you do it. You're going to make a list of your top 100 friends, right? And family members and contact list. And then you're going to introduce them or have them come to your webinar or have them come to your in-home show or whatever it might be, your seminar. And then you're going to walk them through the process. Well, it's true. There's a process, and that process is successful. But you've got to be in the game. You've got to be in the mindset, or it's not going to click for you. And sometimes
Yes.
you can be doing something for a really long time and it won't click for you. And you wonder why. You're doing all the steps. You're following all these steps. You're following the steps in The Secret. You're thinking about it. You want it. You got a poster of it on your wall and it's still not coming. Well, you're trying too hard. You're trying to force it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're not in alignment with it, if you don't already believe that this is yours, then you're in contrast. Again, it's not yours yet because you're mentally down here. You are waiting for it. You know that if you do all this, you will get it. Yes, you want to follow those steps. Yes, you want to take action. But at the same time, you've got to believe it's already yours. It's on its way, and you're just clearing a space for it. You're just taking out the old TV so that the new one can
Yes.
come. You've got to believe it's already yours and that it's on the way, and you're just making room for it. You're just getting ready for it and getting prepared for it. You're widening your cup, your receipt cup, or the term that you use, and with the gratitude, you're getting ready to receive larger volumes of abundance money, whatever that might be, by appreciating what's in the cup right now, even if it's just a penny. There's something in
Yes.
there. And then you're going to start widening that too. And it's all about just really, I think that gratitude is just the primary love language of abundance. It really is just being
Amazing.
very grateful for everything, every new connection, every seeming failure or disappointment, just being grateful for all of it, knowing that it's all helping align you to where you should be. It's going to get you there faster. It's going to and when I say get you there, you may not actually know what that is yet. You may think you know what it is. You may have some ideas, but if you are really listening, paying attention, following the guidance, and grateful for everything that comes your way, knowing that everything is being given to you as a result of the energy that you're putting out there, the value you're putting out there, the appreciation you have for this, then you're always going to be led down the right path, led along the right path. When we say led down the path, it doesn't sound very good, but you're always going to get led along the right path and the path that's right for you. So I do just really believe in just being grateful for every single thing and widening your cup, widening
Yeah.
your expectations, knowing it's already out there. Just it's all in the feelings. It's all in the feelings.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. You know, it has been a remarkable, phenomenal conversation with you. And I love it that you are just that living, breathing example of everything that you said from the start of the conversation up to now. I think we extended our time half an hour more.
Just a bit.
Yeah, and you know, I am genuinely grateful that you took the time to be with us. I know we kept planning on having this interview, but there's just so much value in the things that you have shared, and no wonder the universe was just right to give you that business name, Fine Coaching,
Yeah.
because it really is fine coaching the way we handled this conversation. So I always end the show asking my guests, although we've talked a lot about many different topics, what's the one perspective that you want me and the rest of the viewers to hang on to?
Well, before I actually give you that, I just want to say thank you to you too, and for your patience in us getting this meeting together. I had every confidence that we were going to make this work, however long it took. I knew it was going to happen, so I'm really grateful for you to reach out to me and to have this chat too. It's really been really great chatting with you. The one thing that I would say, the one perspective, is to just really focus on the fact that you are so much more than this, so much more. And it is all within. It's always been within, and it will always be there. And it is pure and utter unconditional love that accepts you for who you are and where you are and wants nothing but the absolute best for you. Just remember that and tap into that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And I trust to have you again for another episode, especially I'm going to have a new show. And I think a lot of the things you said will be very valuable to that new show. And a lot of people who are just beginning to understand the dynamics of the mind. I love that you talked about the habits of the mind because a lot of people think that when you watch The Secret, they get so excited, but then they don't have the steps and then they get disappointed. But honestly, I'm very grateful for that movie because that's where I started. Before
Yeah.
I learned metaphysics, that's where I started. So anyway, Dr. Ro was saying, awesome interview. Kudos, Reverend Reg and Rebecca.
Thank you. It was fun. I
Uh,
had a really, really great time.
Thank you so much. And I trust to have you again
Yes,
for
I would love
another
that.
episode or for my other show. So, anyway, to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. I trust that you took notes because even I wanted to take notes earlier. There's just so much value in what she was saying, especially the practical basis of balancing whatever idea you have of spirituality, and at the same time balancing it with the material aspect of prosperity. So if there's one thing that really resonated with me with what she said was, you have to work on the habits of your mind because it's actually what creates the outer results. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and I trust to have you all again for another episode of Perspective. Remember to put things in perspective because your perspective shapes your reality, and visit her website through finecoaching.com. That's all for now, and have fun everyone.